Hello everyone. We continue with the poem Alexander's Feast, written by John Dryden. The occasion is the festivities that are in progress on the victory of Alexander over Darius, the king of Persia. Darius, who was also very strong and very good, but that fate did not favor him, so he lost his country to Alexander. And Timotheus, who is creating another world in this world of festivity with his music, creates the picture of the war, creates the picture of Darius, who was killed by his own people when he was flying for life. He was killed among his own mates. And the misery of this fallen king who was disfavored by fate is such that he lies miserable, dead upon an alien ground, and no one even to close his eyes. So, the presentation of this fall of a powerful man is retold at Alexander's feast by Timotheus. And this he tells with the beating, with the lyre again being played. So the music, the softening music which Timotheus plays, softens the heart of Alexander. And we continue further. With downcast looks, the joyless victor sat, revolving in his altered soul the various turns of chance below. So, in the previous stanzas, John Dryden speaks about Alexander, who, on the music played upon trumpets and drums, was sent to a feeling of frenzy and a complete madness in which he relived the occasion of killing and thrice killed the already dead bodies. So, in his imagination, the very Alexander who was re-killing the already killed soldiers on the battleground, in his imagination, is now rendered joyless. This victor who sits there completely devoid of joy, because in the fallen Darius he must be seeing his own fate. The downcast looks, the joyless victor, with downcast looks, the joyless victor sat, revolving in his altered soul the various turns of chance below. So now he feels that chance can turn tables on him. He could be the next prey of chance. And now and then a sigh he stole, and tears began to flow. So he was sighing. Despite all that intoxication from wine, an intoxication caused by his peers screaming victory to him, calling him the earthly god, comes to realize the horror that disfavor of fate might cast upon an individual. The vanquisher is now feeling vanquished. The killer is feeling being killed. And the one in complete joy is now feeling in complete desperation. He is sighing. He is giving out sounds of desperation, and unknowingly tears are gushing forth in his eyes. The mighty master, I told you already, this mighty master is one who controls. And who is controlling this feast? Not Alexander, who is the victor, but Timotheus, who is creating the music. So Timotheus smiled to see that love was in the next degree. That now, instead of pride in oneself, love for humanity was welling up in the eyes of Alexander. It was but a kindred sound to move, for pity melts the mind to love. So it was a kindred, it was a similar sound that he was producing. He knew what to play and what result, what impact will that musical instrument have on the minds of his audience. And he, from sorrow, is from dismissal of personality, he is generating in the mind of Alexander the feeling of love. Softly sweet in Lydian measures, soon he soothed his soul to pleasures. War he sung is toil and trouble, honor but an empty bubble. So this master, he brought Alexander to feel love, and Timotheus does not stop here. He created more soft melodies in Lydian measures, in very divine measures. He started playing music which was, measures is about songs, melodies. He started creating melodies, soft and sweet, and soothed his soul to pleasures. And he then gave a soothing impact to the soul of his audience. And how did he do it? He sung, war is toil and trouble. What is war? People think war is going to bring them laurels. War is going to spread their names far and asunder. War is going to subjugate humanity under their feet. But Timotheus speaks otherwise. He says war is only unnecessary labor. It is toil, useless labor, and it is trouble. It creates trouble for everyone. And what is honor? People feel that if they become victors in wars, they will be garlanded with honor. They would be taken into high esteem and they would be honored absolutely. But Timotheus speaks differently. He says, what is honor? Honor is only an empty bubble. Already a bubble is actually empty, but the usage of empty with bubble stresses the fact that it is absolutely stupid to believe that because the bubble is going up, is rising up in the layers of water, it will bring with itself something very great. But we see it clear enough that when a bubble rises in water, as soon as it touches the top, that is reality, it bursts out and loses itself. Timotheus told Alexander. Also, the audience is listening, but the person at the center of it all is Alexander. And Alexander, through the music and the song sung to him, realizes that war is unnecessary labor. It is a trouble. And honor, which has intoxicated his mind, is really an empty bubble. Never ending, still beginning. Fighting still and still destroying. If the world be worth thy winning, think, oh think, it worth enjoying. So these are the words which Timotheus is furthering. He says, war and honor and pleasures, they may be never ending. One, if any person becomes victorious and let the sense of honor speed up into his brain, then there is no end to winning. There is no end to killing. One can continue because he is strong. He might go on doing that. But then, see, never ending, still beginning. There are two meanings to the word still. There is pun upon still, which means still is stationary, unmoving. And still also means until now. So, Timotheus warned Alexander that if you are intoxicated with the idea of honor falling to your side, then war is never ending and it can still begin. It can send you fighting still and still destroying. So, still is implying to death. You might also be fighting and turn dead. Or you can continue to be destroying. But then he asks the question, if the world be worth thy winning, is it okay? Has the world been created so that for the sole purpose that you win? Think it over. Just think it over. Can you keep on winning the world? Because do you believe the world has been created for you to win it? Oh, think, it worth enjoying. He presses the need upon Alexander and even us, because even we are the audience to what Timotheus and John Dryden together are saying. Is there any end to the desire to thump ourselves upon the lives of others? One can continue to kill others, and by killing, by defeating, you may assume a false feeling that you are the strongest. But then, is the world made to be destroyed? Or is it made to be enjoyed? Now, this is the crux of the matter. The feast. Why the feast is organized? What is actually a feast? Feast is an occasion of rejoicing. Feast is an occasion of enjoying. Feasts are thrown on events which will bring joy. But Timotheus has already told Alexander that your victory caused death. Darius was killed, and many soldiers must have been lying, just like Darius lying to be tended by someone, deserted on battlefield. So how can one have the idea of rejoicing, have the idea of enjoying at the death of others? If victory can be obtained without killing, should be victory actually. But if victory comes at the cost of lives of others, it cannot be enjoying. It cannot be understood as enjoyment. So this is the purpose, and we see it plainly enough that Timotheus, with his music, is leading Alexander. Instead, that Alexander the winner carry his people from one state of mind to other, it is that the master of the occasion, Timotheus, is conducting Alexander and us as well from one emotion to the other. We only come to terms, to reality, if someone explains it. And Timotheus and Dryden are doing the purpose of making us realize the horrors of destruction. Horrors that the lust for honor is never ending. The lust for honor can reduce the fighter also dead, just as Darius fought, but he also passed away. So in the same way, a similar fate can befall Alexander. A similar fate can befall anyone. Think it over. What is the message conveyed in this poem, Alexander's Feast? Of all the part that we have read until now, have we been told anything about the chamber in which the feast is organized? About the names of the people who are rejoicing on this occasion? About the feast board that has been laid to be carved? No. It is just to tell you, to tell all of us that destruction is irreparable and destruction is the lot of all of us. And this is all for today. We shall continue. Thank you.